Yeah.
Oh, no. How does this work, man? All right.
Okay.
Here we go, guys.
Sweet. Thank you very much. Hey, so who's you?
I'm off the loud.
Sweet. I think anybody we can get on it, the better.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to see what the confusion is.
Yeah. So real quick, Dave's going to court over something like this tomorrow. Prosecutors, when we talk to them, it's always like it's in the court. We have to let the trials and juries deal with it like that.
Right.
Well, we're concerned is we can't decide one side of the hand will never get to talk to the other side. That's why we're talking to you guys. And so we had three kind of really basic questions that we run into with this statute. And so, as it reads, it's obviously for the purposes of traffic flow and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, basically, the contentions we have are, one, can this be written on private property with a median that's not a median because it's just a private property? And basically, the lead into that was David was on the Northglenn mall, had not been warned, so it's a public-private, so until you get warned, the only thing is a trespassing charge if you come back after you're warned. So
That
deals
deals
with
with
trespassing.
That's not true at all.
And that deals with
You can be cited
trespassing.
for first offense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Either way.
solicitation is different. Just you can cite on the first solicitation contact. Trespassing, if you get trespassed by a business, we have to tell you you're trespassed by this business not to come back. And then if you come back, you're cited for that.
Okay.
So there's
that
two
right
different
there.
charges, yeah.
Which leads me to the original question, sort of in a different way, is there such thing as a solicitation charge for private property?
It depends on
Because
where
it
you're at.
would be like a no soliciting sign that it would, or basically,
Because we couldn't find any laws
Were
actually.
you standing in the median, basically a marketplace in 104th? Is that
I was
where
on
you were at?
private property, yes.
He was on the median.
So you were
Okay,
at the median,
marketplace
the
is an
marketplace
actual
in
street.
104th.
Marketplace is not
Uh-huh.
private property.
Yeah.
Right there,
See,
marketplace
there's
is
where
not
that's
an
different.
official street though.
It actually is an
It
official
is.
street. Yeah.
We actually
It's
looked it
an
up.
intersection. It's
Okay.
always an official intersection.
So this is where we're going to have to agree to disagree. We'll move on.
Right,
to that.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, no, that's-
So, but real quick here, just to clarify, you guys.
Go ahead.
We talked to your city clerks, and your city clerks talked to your city manager, and your city manager explained to me that Marketplace was not a public street. It's a private property.
That would be
And
definitely
it's
news.
Marketplace,
Yeah.
and I
Because the
looked it up.
place is not
Also,
listed in any actual public road system in
Huh.
interstate because
Yeah.
it's a place instead
It's a
of
place,
a
right.
road.
Yeah, and so the misinterpretation of the statute there is, no reasonable suspicion because you misinterpreted the statute as, median.
Right.
And then also we had pulled up several maps that you guys had offered, and I think your county map or for property lines I had found, and it actually did not even list Marketplace on it as a street at all. It just simply had a nice big private property there.
Right.
And so that's one thing that we noticed. So just if you guys want to do your research to find out if it's a median, that's kind of why we were asking you, is because you seem to believe we're doing the same thing that the other
Right.
officers do.
In a lot of the cases, especially in that intersection, if it's affecting the traffic flow through the intersection of 104th, regardless of the of the traffic from Marketplace itself, only Marketplace itself, it affects obviously 104th, depending on the situation. I wasn't
Yeah.
there. I didn't
Yep.
cite you. I don't know.
And so actually, there's actually 4 points. So thanks for bringing that because we had already talked to a police officer about that. And here it says basically that causes the person to travel out onto the travel portion of the street or highway. So if where we were, if we simply, and this is what I confirmed with the
Excuse
other
me.
officer, was if we had.
Let me finish that real quick.
Let me finish. Thank you. Sorry, I just have a train of thought. Well, I had confirmed with the officer that as long as you are not traveling out onto the public portion of the roadway, if you're staying on the private property, completing the transaction on private property, that this statute wasn't written to apply to cars that were heading toward that public property. Because as long as they're never actually on the public property, if you cause an accident, it's a private car accident. Because all it
Also
means
states that you cannot do this and stop somebody from being able to enter into an intersection or a parking lot, anything like that.
So where does that say?
And let me see, I just read it.
I guess another thing about solicitation is the active going out and asking. I was technically
See, here
just
it is. The person
standing there.
performing the activity is located such that a vehicle cannot move into a legal parked area to safely conduct the transaction. So,
Yep, so there,
if you're standing there,
they had the opportunity, and multiple people did, with me when I was there. They would come around and they would go park, and then they would walk out and they would give me money. And so
that's different than a car stopping and doing it. So, I mean, I think you guys have some legitimate arguments.
Well, we're not. Thank you. I understand. Okay, so just to clarify, traffic. Okay, so the raw question is: could you write a ticket for somebody that's standing on private property that's not entering out another public roadway? That while you're concerned about traffic flowing into the public intersection there, because the person's not traveling out of the public roadway, and the person performing the activity is not located such that vehicles cannot pull over. Because remember, people will always have a chance to pull right back over.
Well, I can
And so
see
if that's
that
the
if
case,
the officer sees, if the officer was watching anything like that, and they could see a car that had to stop to give you money, and it caused a little bit of a jam, and people had to drive around,
Okay.
that could be ended up construed underneath that last one. So
But keep in mind, what the other officer had already told me was that if the entire transaction is conducted on private property, even if they're on their way to public property, they never actually enter that public
Because
property.
it's like ad hocing.
Yeah, and it's like once you receive the money, you're a event, even if they had stopped, they had stopped on private property and they were.
But think about the backup to that intersection, goes out into public property. You could cause an accident in public
Actually,
property.
the backup
Actually,
goes
the
up
backup
into
goes
the
into
private
private
property.
property.
Oh, well, if they come, so were you guys going the way out or the way in?
Here's the marketplace, all the stores, and they're coming out, taking a left onto 104. And here's us with our signs on private property while they're stopped in their red light. And then only while they're upon moving, I turn away so that I don't even give them a chance to give me money. But sometimes if they're insistent enough, they have it on the window on the way out. Sometimes they'll even slow down. But no matter what, any accident that they cause, even by stopping completely, is always on private property before it ever reached the intersection. So it's actually impossible to get an accident caused once they passed us into the intersection turning. And so if you can get I know some car accidents can be charged under public law for being on private property.
Yeah. There's
But-
a lot of statutes. that we
But as
check.
far as like, can you ticket someone if you don't actually see them cause an accident for even it to be wishy-washy? Can you still write a ticket?
It depends. Impeding normal flow of traffic into the intersection. If you can articulate that that's happening, if you're impeding the normal flow of traffic, absolutely.
Where does it say impeding the normal flow of traffic though in the statute?
It's actually
Yeah.
the
That's what
movement
we're
of the
trying to get at.
vehicles is what I'm
Yeah,
getting at.
yeah.
Okay, so if you're stopping the movement of the vehicle, that can definitely cause an accident. And I'm not going to cite a driver because you guys stopped the car. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
but
So-
the moving of the vehicle,
Uh-huh.
the only statute that we see there is that it's something about not having a place for them to park.
Right.
It has something to do with
Not-
whether or not they're moving or not.
Not pulling over to safely conduct a transaction.
So-
Stopping in the travel portion, even if it is private property, is not safely conducting.
6-1 was that for me?
But it's not the public roadway, so you don't have jurisdiction to actually tell them that they can't stop on
For a
public
judge to
roadway.
decide. The
Well,
interpretation
okay.
could go either way.
Okay, well.
But that's for a judge to
yeah.
decide.
Okay, so what we're trying to get at is if we get to the judge
Mhm.
and it's interpreted one way,
Uh-huh.
then we just wanted to make clear that anybody that gets hassled on private property
Right.
is that you can't stretch the statute and say, well, we're worried about this traffic. We wrote this with the intent, but the way you guys wrote it, you just have to revise it basically to actually.
Right,
apply
and
it.
that's
that.
definitely something to bring up to the judge.
Yeah.
And like I said, man, you're talking to the
So-
two wrong people. We
Well,
don't,
well,
we
well,
don't, we
no,
don't deal
no,
with this a lot.
I understand where you're coming
Absolutely,
from.
we don't deal with this a lot. That particular statute, we choose to spend our time elsewhere. However, a judge is going to be the final decision on it, and I think you have a lot of great points to bring up to a
Well,
judge.
we have 2 points now. So those are the ones that were always the, wishy-washy.
Absolutely,
Oh,
yeah.
so forth. The two really big concerns we have now are, one, I was stopped on a sidewalk across the street, so not on private property.
Okay.
This was right in front of Best Buy there, and basically an officer had stopped me there, claimed that I was under reasonable suspicion of crime for him to run my ID, and I said, "Can you cite the statute?" He said he couldn't, but he knew it was a solicitation. I told him, "Yeah, I knew the statute. I read it to him myself."
Okay.
And so the point of contention I had with him there was, I have and I have on tape so if you can hear it, if you need. He very specifically said, "Yeah, you're standing out there on a side of a street with a sign. Of course, we have a reasonable suspicion that you're committing a crime." And so the one thing that I know where he's trying to get at potentially is where it says, one, causes the person performing the activity to enter out of the trial enforcement rule. Before he ran my name, I told him I knew the statute, and I said, I knew that that's not something I'm going to do. So I sort of took away the reasonable suspicion that it's not causing me to go out there.
Okay.
And they said that it doesn't matter, they have reasonable suspicion that they could not believe me at face value, that he never witnessed me go out there. He actually had just shown up from a different situation that I saw, but I had just walked across the street to wait for it all to play out. Basically, that was the only reason he had left was because I'm not on a median, and he never cited the whole person performing the activity is located in such a park. He simply said, point blank, "Hey man, it's I don't believe you. I think it's causing you to go out there."
Okay.
I guess what we're getting at is an empty future crime that the accident hasn't happened yet, but got cited for.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the reasonable suspicion?
So
for the
regardless, I
crime?
mean, I get where you guys are coming from, where it's the future crime. Accident hasn't happened yet, but a lot of this stuff is to prevent that. It's not, crimes or
Exactly.
laws are not always made for future crimes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's made to prevent certain
Yeah.
things. And we have, look up statistics, 104th and Huron, 104th and I-25. Those are
Really
two
big
biggest in the
areas.
state, almost the biggest in the state for accidents.
Yeah.
And there's a reason we enforce these laws.
So
Arguing with officers, I'm not saying you're arguing by
Yeah.
any means, but bringing up points with officers, it's not going to do anything for the statute. It's not going to do anything for the law.
well, what I was worried about was the whole. I could have told him that I'm not stepping out of the roadway, and so what would the reasonable suspicion be left for him to run my ID? That's what
I
I
was
was
there,
concerned.
man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
Well, that's why I'm asking you guys. If you were to get me and you see me on the side of the street, and then I tell you personally, "Hey man, I'm smart enough not to go out onto the roadway. I'm bending over," which I told him. I was like, "Yeah, just for only the cars that have hand access. Could you cite me for this citation, or
Could-
the very
could.
least, could you?"
You're not
Would
being
you feel
convicted of a
reasonable-
crime with a piece of paper that says you're being charged with something. You're not being convicted of a
Well,
crime.
it's
So
the
we can cite you,
reasonable
yeah.
suspicion of, do you guys have the legal authority to temporarily detain me for a crime that isn't being committed, or
It
can
depends
be?
on the situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't at.
But is there a possibility that if there's no other violations, and if the only contention is that if it's
If I
causing
pulled up
me,
and saw you on a median with a sign, I'd contact you, and I'd say, hey, what's going on? You mind if I see your ID, stuff like that.
well, that's
you
asking,
doing
but
that.
they required it.
And
they
then-
told me that I had to.
That's how I would start it. I'm
And
always
so-
very professional, and I'm nice
Yeah.
to people when I start. Okay, and then I mean, with you being out there holding the sign and you're standing on a median, there is potential for you to walk out, even if you tell me there's not. So there's still
Ah,
reasonable
the
suspicion
potential.
there
That's
that there's
that-
potential for you
yeah.
to do it. So that's
Right,
why
so
it would.
And
that's
then
why
when I
reasonable
come back
suspicion
and
is not
say that there's
probable
not
cause.
potential.
Yeah, but that's
That's
why
why reasonable suspicion is
it's
not probable cause.
But
probable
the-
cause would be
yeah.
I would watch you walk out on the
Well,
street.
yeah,
and I
sure,
would
sure,
say,
sure.
look right
By
there.
the way, they didn't
You
watch
did.
me, they just showed up.
Yeah.
So
Right.
So I mean,
Okay,
that's,
it just seems a little
the law is
fishy
so gray.
that
and
basically they wanted my ID for the sole purpose of, they even told me, like, if you don't have any warrants or warnings, we want to ticket you. I'm like,
Mhm.
you have to have reasonable suspicion that I'm committing a crime,
Right.
meaning that if I gave you the idea and if you wanted to, you could write me the ticket. I'm saying that I don't think that they could have written me a ticket off of saying that it caused me to.
Right.
And I'm telling you guys, I'm just kind of philosophically throwing this out there.
Right. No,
There may
it's
not
good for
be
discussion,
reasonable
absolutely.
suspicion to require someone's ID if the only thing that they have left is, well, we think you're going out there and it causes you. And before I give my
We're
ID, I
trying to
can
get
tell
as
you.
a terrier law that they're basically stopping anyone right now.
Yeah,
It's
Terry,
Right.
Terry risk, yeah, everything like that. Yeah.
And so it's like a black person walking down the street. Yes, if they're reasonably suspected to be committing a crime, but it's like the way that this is kind of worded. The best I could come up with was holding a knife to someone that's going to stab someone is half of the cause that it's like to go out and do that. And so it's like
Or like drink driving. If you buy alcohol, you're going to be drinking and driving.
oh yeah.
It's not legal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you
you
see
use
a
that to an
seal-
extent, but if you're standing on the side of the road with a sign,
Yeah.
solicitation
does.
prohibited, I mean.
See, there's where it gets
Okay.
nasty, is because
Here's
you
the other
assume that I'm all
Assumes
that
that we
ready to
have
go
to
out
commit a
onto
crime in
the
order to do
roadway.
No, I'm not saying
No.
you have to commit a crime by any means at all. However, we're a lot stricter than other jurisdictions when it comes to solicitation prohibited.
Yeah,
A lot
but me
stricter.
standing out on the side of the road, just holding a sign, is not illegal all by itself.
Okay.
Right?
Legal parking area, safely conducted transaction.
Like I said,
Intersections
every-
are not legal parking areas, safely conducted
Well, that
transaction.
sounds like a determination that you're trying to make ahead of time.
That's not a determination, that's,
So,
That's common
so
knowledge.
how
I mean-
come I have cars that, when they turn left, they
Uh-huh.
turn back around and then they park?
what's the definition of parking?
They go and they actually park into an actual parking lot.
Okay?
Yep.
And
Okay,
then they
no,
get out of
absolutely.
it.
If that was solely what was happening, right? But reasonably, can you believe that every single car, if you're standing on the side of the highway, that is giving you money, is stopping and parking into a parking lot?
No, what you're saying is that the only way that you can accept money is if they park, when it's
Right.
it's based on risk, right? So if I'm only accepting money from
It's
parked
based
cars,
on law, it's not
is,
risk.
well, hold on, you said it's about risk about car accident. So if there's never any car accident, and let's say, for argument's sake,
Prevention.
I
I
only
say
accept
prevention, not
money.
risk. Prevention.
I guess the
Well, what
prevention
I'm
is the
saying-
blanket policy taking away our rights to basically
Yeah,
freedom of speech
so
asking for
let
help.
me finish.
Okay,
Okay, so
this is
the,
good for conversation,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, yeah.
there's nothing we can do about
Well,
that.
no.
Yeah.
There's one crime I
there's,
wanna
hold on,
see at
it's-
the end of this.
This, I think I figured out the blanket policy, prevention. What I'm trying to say is it might not apply to someone who is on private property
Okay.
that hasn't had their warning yet. That
It only applies to trespass, but okay.
Yep. Meaning that until further notice we could be there. That I am not accepting it from vehicles that are moving and no one sees me doing that. And I only accept it from parked cars in a private lot that are waiting for a green light. And I'm not stepping out of the public portion of the roadway. It's not causing me to go out of any public roadways. I'm not on a median in any way. Can I stand there and accept money from a parked vehicle?
Let me ask you this, can a vehicle be parked and still be a drive?
It's
According to law.
It's on private property, so it's
According to law,
not
the
a
vehicle will be
car.
parked.
It's like your
It's
friend's
still a
backyard.
vehicle, it's still a
Are you
motor
telling me
vehicle.
that I'm not allowed to legally accept money from a private parked car on private property?
What's the
It's not
definition of
parked,
parked?
it's in an intersection.
Remember,
That's
it's
not
It's
traffic.
dictating what you
Remember,
can
it's
do on
private
private
property.
land.
I
It's
understand
private
that. You
property.
realize that careless, reckless, DUI, unsafe backing can all be written on private
but
property.
that requires people hitting other people with
Motor
cars.
vehicles, no. Careless, you don't have to hit another car. Reckless, you don't have to hit another car. Unsafe backing, you don't have to hit another car.
Okay.
DUI, you don't have to hit another car.
Am I allowed to go deeper into the parking lot where the cars are not otherwise on their way out to the intersection?
Oh, sure.
without
I mean,
causing
sure.
that?
Yeah, as long as
And
the
if they're-
businesses aren't saying anything about you, we'll probably say, hi, how are you?
Okay,
What
so
are you doing?
the,
And that's about it.
So so if I'm accepting it from a car that is, let's say I'm deeper down into the roadway and I'm still on the roadway, it's not a car that's moving toward the intersection, but it's a car that's still moving. How can that apply when it's on private property?
I can't tell you, man. I don't know.
That's,
Here, let me see if I can
I
read
don't
this
know.
one here. Just
Yeah, I
'cause
mean,
it says,
There's one other question I had.
It says, for the purposes of the section, the travel portion of the street or highway shall mean that portion of the road normally used by moving motor vehicle traffic.
Mhm.
And what I'm saying is the definition of street and highway, because it doesn't include marketplace, where is your jurisdiction left? Okay,
we
like-
still have jurisdiction in marketplace.
We do,
I mean,
absolutely.
For, no,
We still have jurisdiction over
for,
property.
Yeah.
okay, one, like I said, let's say you actually see me on the sign. Okay, so I wanted to like see if we could just play it out. Okay, so you see me, I'm just standing there. Cars are parked. One, it's not causing me to go out of the travel portion of the roadway, so you don't have reasonable suspicion there.
Okay.
You wait and you watch me, and I never actually go out onto 104. I'm walking out onto a private, whatever it is.
Okay.
It's not a road, it's a marketplace. So you wouldn't have the reasonable suspicion to stop me there. Then you would have to go to the second one, which is involves the person performing the activity to locate upon any median area, and we've already established, or you can double check, we've confirmed that that's not a median, and so what we're saying is you wouldn't have reasonable suspicion there, and so the only thing left would be, or there's two things left. 3, the person performing the activity is located such that the vehicles cannot move into the legal parking area to safely conduct the transaction. It says the person, oh, let me just give the wording, because this is where it's really secret. Person performing the activity is located such that vehicles cannot move into illegal parking. So me, where I'm located on the median, is not located in a place where they cannot move in.
Would this
So-
apply for right off of I-25 where it would actually back up and wouldn't ever be able to find an actual parking and walk out?
So it's not, so in this case, with the wording there, where it's the purpose of performing the activity is located, it's not whether every single car has to be able to park in order to give the money. It's just, am I located where people can see me and go park if they need? So it's all about the
That's
physical
a
location.
conversation, right?
What we're trying to get at is if we should be going to court and wasting taxpayer dollars over a fraudulent.
You'll have to go to court for this.
Well, yeah.
Because on NSIG, we
Yeah,
can't,
yeah,
we can't dismiss the ticket. That's just the basic of it.
But I
We can't-
figured if there
we
was a
can't
crime in the
dismiss
middle of the ticket, that the
Shall be unlawful for any person to solicit employment, business, or contributions of any
And I
kind
mean,
from the occupant of any
It sounds
vehicle
like
on
a
any
lot of this
highway
is gonna go down
included in the
to
interstate
what the
system,
definitions are that the
including
judge
entrance
feels
or
a
exit
median
from
is,
such
a
a-
street is, and everything like that. I
Yeah.
mean, if the judge looks at it and she's listening to your arguments and stuff, and she says, well, this is a median, this is crosswise traffic, and it states in there that you can't do it in that area, I mean, it's
Yeah.
up to her, man. I mean,
Yeah, well, like I said, the contentions are, it sounds like it's a physical location thing. So
Mhm.
if you're physically located on a public median, then it's like, oh, an automatic enough that we know you're going to go out into traffic. And
Or
then
just
here
that you're
it's like-
standing on a median and ask for money.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Yeah.
alone is a charge. So is,
That's what I mean. That's
so
what
is the
I'm
highway
getting at.
one.
That's what I'm getting at. Yep.
The highway
Which
is
we weren't
alone
taking.
is a charge.
And then now it's the only charge was if I'm physically located where people do not have the capacity to move into a parking spot.
You know, in all honesty,
Isn't that what it says though? Like it's where the person is physically located. So for
located
instance,
such that vehicles
I
cannot
imagine-
move into a legal parking area to safely
Yeah.
conduct the transaction.
I guess what we're trying to get at
safely
is-
conduct the transaction. It's all for the
Well, it's-
transaction itself.
but it's for, it says the person performing the activity is
120.
located such that vehicles cannot. I'm saying that
For
a
the
vehicle-
transaction purpose alone.
They have the capability.
Well,
Not for them to just park safely. It's for the
person
transaction.
performing the activity is located in a place that vehicles will never be able to move into a legal parking area to safely complete the transaction. I'm saying
To safely conduct a transaction.
that word never is impossible because there's abundance of parking places everywhere that
Okay.
if they choose to, they can.
They can, right, but to
But-
safely conduct the transaction, in my mind, is the centerpiece.
Yeah, but the word cannot, it says such that vehicles cannot move into it.
I
Is that a-
think
is that
I think you got a good
unable
point with
to-
What we're
wordplay
trying to
for
get
the
at
judge,
is
but-
a cop stop me on private property.
Scott Thomas, I'm sure, Officer Thomas.
Or sorry, a cop, I didn't mean Scott.
No, you're good. I said Scott. I said Scott.
figured it's Officer
Yeah.
Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So,
Okay, well, sure,
It's
all
like
this
if
is
we were
interpretation.
taking a backyard, it's like, what is your jurisdiction in the end?
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and you know
So-
what, I think it's a great point to bring up.
It will, yeah, perfect. Okay,
And you know
so
what, that
these are
that
all-
alone is how case law is made. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you come and talk to two cops who,
Well, keep in mind.
Well,
that,
stop, there's one crime at the end, potentially.
This is what
Okay.
we're really concerned about.
Is a cop allowed to hold me for a mall security guard to identify me for an exclusionary order?
We asked why.
what type of exclusion?
Yeah.
For
It was a
trespassing.
private properties, the banning, once we tell you that.
So
you're
they were
trespassing.
called-
He's going off the word of
Yeah.
the security officer that you're trespassing.
Yes.
And he's waiting for him to come over. And if
He
if
said,
has
let's get
reasonable
Bernie over
suspicion
here.
that you are trespassed from there,
Yeah.
and that you were on the
But then
property.
at the end of it,
Hold
he
on a second.
said, you are now banned for trespassing, and I later read that it has to come from the,
Okay, that's great, I'll check.
mall company, it
The
came
property
from the
owner
police
will
officer.
tell, they'll tell us, and
It
then
has to
they'll
go to
tell the
us
security
from-
guard, and
yeah.
they'll tell us, and then
Thank
we'll
you so
tell
much.
it to you.
Have a
Because I
great
mean,
day.
we don't usually take people back into the business and say, tell them you want to
But
trespass.
it's his
Because
business.
you would not have legal justification to hold them
Well,
for
no, because
detaining.
if we're there, for
Trespassing,
for
absolutely, because that is a
assault,
criminal
yeah.
charge.
Okay, wait,
Well,
wait.
trespassing.
Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. There's different courts going on. This is why okay, so the way that it
Okay,
went
so I
down
guess
was
I need to fill out whatever paperwork
while he
I
was
need
writing the
to-
ticket, once he was done, he told David,
credit card
hey,
is not
we're gonna
left.
hold you here until we get Bernie to identify you, because the identification is, he had already talked to Bernie and had assumed that he was already banned, and so the identification purpose, or warned, and so the identification purposes was physically holding them there, detaining there for the
He
sole
kept
purpose
this ticket
of
open
someone
in
else
order to force
detaining.
detain for Bernie to show. I use the word Bernie as the security guard.
Yeah, so in your guys' situation, we ask, hey, are you detaining me? You say yes. I ask which statute. You say 773. You're done writing the ticket.
Okay.
Hey, you're still detaining me. Why are you detaining me? I need to hold you so that we can get a security guard over here to identify you for the purposes of banning you. That's not a statute.
I was not ever given a warning or the chance
Yeah.
to even leave to come back to get
Were
a
you-
trespassing
were you
charge, to
cited?
even get a picture.
You cited for trespassing,
No.
and you were given a warning.
Then that was the warning.
But the warning requires, okay, let's say that's where we're getting at now, is can you hold somebody so that somebody else on private property, for whatever reason, Ulta or Office Depot, can come and identify the purposes for the warning?
See, we don't know all the
For a
information. We
warning,
don't
I
know-
mean,
Can you hold them for the warning?
I personally wouldn't.
Both down in Colorado Springs.
legally,
But you're holding them
But you're
for
holding,
private
you're
entities.
detaining them for something that
you're
you
still,
reasonable suspicion, right?
we're missing the point. A warning for a trespassing, right? A trespassing is a criminal charge.
Sure, but a warning for the first time is only where you simply, as a private property guy, can you can see them, and as they're running away, you can say, "Hey, you can't come here anymore." But you can't actually say, "Hey, stop there." And as I was reading online,
Well,
you
if
can't
they were-
actually have them require them to go over and fill out an exclusionary
It's like
order
sending
because
high school
you're
kids to
detaining
the
them for a
security
non-law
office to take pictures for the skateboarding. And I guess part of the problem is the skateboarding usually ends in a warning, don't
You know, I
skateboard
even
again.
called
You
them
can still come
last
back
time.
and shop.
They
I wasn't even given that, and they showed up and
Because
taken
I
me
filled
for
out a police
soliciting
report, they
and
were
started
giving
banning
me
me,
good-
throwing
The soliciting, you don't have to have a
exclusionary
warning for soliciting. That's
Um,
something you don't have to have a
That's
Well,
warning.
that's
for
the
an
thing, though.
exclusionary
There is no
order.
such thing as a private property solicitation charge. Meaning, if there's a no soliciting line, like
Right, like we've said 1,000 times, man, we weren't there. I don't know where
Well,
you're standing.
no,
You can tell me
yeah,
one
that's
thing,
all-
I can look at the ticket, in all honesty,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
zero that we can do about your guys'
Well,
tickets.
no, that's not what we're talking about. What we're concerned about is, argumentatively speaking, or philosophically speaking,
Okay.
there's always that side argument that if someone's going to pull of like, oh, well, you were some trespassing charge, and we have the right to detain you because we have the right to write that trespassing charge, but really we're just giving you a warning. What we're saying is a different hypothetical situation where this person was not identified by that security guard before, not warned, and regardless, it's when David asks, "Hey, are you detaining me so that this person can come over here and identify me?" And he says, "Yes."
Just saying you can take a
The
look in
purpose
case
is-
he sees you on the property.
Yes.
Is what he's saying.
If,
Okay.
so
All right, that's-
for
yeah,
that
okay.
case,
But that's the-
if that's the case,
Right.
if that's the case, because we can always argue the opposite. But if
Yeah,
that's-
I have no idea why
Yeah.
else you would detain you for that long for a security guard to look at your face. And
Yeah.
Exactly. Is it actually, is it legal to hold them there for the purposes of someone else just doing their own thing? If you don't have a statute.
I mean, the statute is trespassing.
Well,
Trespass from
well,
a
keep in mind-
location, yes.
Keep in mind, okay, so we're moving it back. I'm sorry, I have to get this out.
No, it's okay. I mean,
Okay,
this
yeah,
is a lot of
I
gray
promise,
area.
we'll
I
get
haven't
to
talked
the
about
bottom
like
of
this in a
things.
long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's a trespassing charge, you would have the right to detain them for writing a trespassing charge because they had already committed it.
If
and
they've
so forth.
committed it, yeah.
Can you hold somebody there so that you can get them identified either for the ban or to see if they've trespassed? Can you hold
If
somebody
they're
there?
contacted by somebody from a store that said that this party was here and we wanted to trespass, and they were waiting for that person to identify them,
You
then
can detain for
Yeah.
identification.
You can detain for identification first for that.
Okay, so you would be, hold on a second.
So I'm there, I'm writing a solicitation ticket, and I get information somehow that they're like, well, that party was warned, or that party was called in earlier, matching that description for a possible trespass or something like that, then yes,
Yeah,
I can
suspicion
have,
Okay.
committed a crime.
I
Perfect,
can have
okay.
the security guard come over and identify you guys just to make sure.
Okay.
And
Which
then,
makes sense,
So,
yeah,
yep.
if
then
it's
we
a
can
close
go
enough.
that
Yep.
way.
Right
Yeah.
now,
That
the
way.
difference. So now the difference is the officer has specifically said, "I'm going to hold you here to get Bernie here to identify you for the exclusionary order."
There
Meaning
was
that
no-
there wasn't a warning.
there
because
was no
that would have been
business
the warning.
owner, and
There
the
wouldn't
security
be a
guard didn't
trespassing
see it.
charge because he said exclusionary order.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
And so,
I have
no,
no
what I'm
idea.
saying though is if for you guys is, would you say to somebody to their face, "Hey, I know you've not been warned before, because there's you ran the name, there's no exclusionary order already. Hey, I'm going to hold you here so that we can get an exclusionary order on you. I need to hold you here for the identification purposes of the private property owner so that they can ban you." where do you have the lawful authority to hold them for the act, like you're holding them for the purposes of some private property owner?
It's not
just for
trespassing,
identification.
It's not for soliciting.
Because you said it was
Specifically
for
identification.
the exclusionary order. Are you allowed to say
Specifically for
that?
identification for what?
For the exclusionary order, to get him banned. That's what you call the
Trespass. Get him banned.
No,
Trespass.
that's, no.
No,
This was to
uh,
get him banned. Because he
I
had not
never
been
even
warned.
ever had the capability of leaving and coming back to you.
Because you're
getting
getting
a
banned,
trespassing.
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
being trespassed from that area. That doesn't mean you're getting a ticket.
But the
Yeah.
thing
You're being
is,
trespassed.
being trespassed from the area.
I guess you call it being banned. I mean,
Yeah,
it's called being trespassed from an area.
Yeah, an exclusionary order given to you, or a warning to say if you come back, you'll be
Right, yeah, right.
charged with trespassing. What I'm saying is, that sounds like it is an act of somebody that's personally on a private property. If they see somebody like a store owner, we could be like, "You're banned, you're banned."
Okay.
The contention here is what really struck me as odd is I read online the actual way it's worded, which is you can't hold somebody, detain them for an unlawful reason.
Where did you read this?
Just everywhere, but yeah, it's it's hard to
You gotta understand, man. We don't deal with. There's a million different interpretations of the law by a million different people that have no degree, have
Well,
never
this
written law,
is-
have not been in
Yeah.
any certain,
Well, this is
certain
kind of
statutes and
common
understand
sense.
the law.
This is kind of
I
common
get it.
sense.
I get it.
What if
However,
somebody were to
when you
call
tell me
over
it's
this-
everywhere, that makes no difference.
Okay.
Other people
If
are
I told you, yeah, I
Yeah.
can charge you for whatever on private property, it's written everywhere.
Well,
That means nothing.
The whole point is that he specifically said that he was holding them there for the purposes of getting a private property owner over to identify for the purposes of a trespass order. There's no law. What we're saying to you guys is this isn't a point of contention. Question.
we do that.
There's no legal authority for you to hold somebody there for some private property owner to come in
So
and
you
do
were
whatever.
held an unreasonable amount of time for a solicitation charge.
No, we were concerned that he was being held for the purposes of
Regardless.
identification of a private property.
Regardless what the purpose is, do you feel that he was held an unreasonable amount of time for a solicitation?
Yeah, once the ticket was written and it was done, he held on to it.
What's the reasonable
while
amount of
he-
time?
As long as
For
it
the
takes to
stop.
write the ticket in about 15 minutes.
Okay, usually?
But can you detain for the purposes of getting someone over to identify?
I'm not gonna say yes or
Think about
no.
this.
I don't know the
Somebody,
whole
somebody
story.
burglarizes a house, we have a basic description of them. We contact somebody that kind of matches that description farther down the street. We contact them, we say, hey, you're sitting here and you're waiting until the victim or the witness, whoever saw you, comes over here and identifies you. We can do that.
Okay, so that
we
sounds
can-
like you
we
have
can
a
do
call
that, yeah.
beforehand.
And it
that
depends
was
on,
a
that's
call.
what I was saying earlier.
I guess what was-
There's no call here because he mentioned that it was
I guess
for
what-
purposes of the exclusionary. So he's actually admitting by saying that I need to hold you here to get you banned. How can a
I
public
guess what it
official
is
hold
he
someone
spoke for the company, and when they showed up, Bernie was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I don't like him. Get him for trespassing."
Okay, so
So-
let
Or
me
get
ask you
it
this.
banned.
When you come back, or if you get back, or you come back and you're charged with trespassing, who do you think the victim is? Who do you think is gonna be pressing the charges against you?
Sure, they can hold you. They can even
Okay,
say
who's gonna be
arrest
the
you at that point.
official that serves you that paperwork?
It's whichever officer who turns over his jurisdiction for. He
It's
is.
gonna be the police officer
yeah.
who's representing them at that time.
Yeah.
Because their jurisdiction is within the city limits of
Yeah.
Northglenn, right?
Yep.
So why can't we do the same thing with trespassing you or banning you from somewhere else?
Because it's officially a private matter only. It hasn't reached the public because
Yeah.
Okay, so
Meaning-
trespassing
meaning,
is still a private
Well,
matter.
no.
is it not?
That's an officer. No, I
that's
think
a-
we're getting at it. That is when a private property owner calls in somebody saying, "I already warned them, and I need to get them on a trespassing order called trespassing charge." This was
There
Bernie
was
never
a-
called it at all. The security guard, he never called it, and he was called in to
So
start the
you know for a
identification
fact he
purposes.
never called that you guys were soliciting.
No, if he, by him being called, I mean,
Mm.
he had never previously spoken with this man and banned him.
Okay.
And so they knew that, so that when they held him, they specifically said, we need to hold him here to get him banned.
what we're trying to say is there was one wiggle room that they didn't give me the warning, that they then illegally slapped this stuff on me, and basically I'm coming through this courthouse wasting all your
Okay,
guys.
so let me ask you real quick, 'cause you're not wasting my time. This is actually pretty good banter for me. Let me ask you real quick. You said they slapped it on you without a warning.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to go over that one more time. Solicitation, you don't need a warning. Trespassing, you absolutely.
Solicitation on public property.
Okay,
does require
okay, and
wording,
I'm not
but
arguing that
on
with you, I'm
private
not
property,
arguing that with you at all.
Does
However,
a skateboarder have can he be banned without warning?
a skateboarder?
It's
Yeah,
all under
'cause
the
it's on
list
the-
of what's on.
Yeah,
the
that's
not
also
to
banned
do
in
on.
private properties.
Couldn't tell you, man. I don't ban
Um,
So it's like a first person getting caught with skateboarding gets an exclusionary ban forever. That's basically
Okay.
what we're getting.
Well,
And that's at
you can
Northglenn
ban
Marketplace?
something. Yeah, well, I think the point here that we can push aside.
I just don't
is
understand that the skateboarding, the solicitation prohibited is not.
Because-
Okay,
connection.
the solicitation of no soliciting
Mhm.
and no loitering and no skateboarding and no speeding in parking lots. We spoke to the security guards and they said those are not laws because you can make anything that you want for your private property.
No.
They're just your own.
Purple shirts, no.
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Right,
And it's,
okay,
you can
okay.
refuse service to anybody for any
Right,
reason.
right.
And so solicitation is the same as loitering. One
Yeah,
you can ban anybody for any reason without a warning, evidently. You know, if you're caught skateboarding, banned forever.
It still goes down to
unequal
cruel and unusual
applying it.
and hate crime.
But with no soliciting,
Right.
there's like in other states and there's the counties, there aren't solicitation charges, so there's no actual solicitation offense. The only thing is, if I say something as a property owner and I ban you and I warn
Let me
you,
reverse it real quick.
then it's a trespassing for
Those-
Before
any
we get
unspecified
too far into it, you're saying there's no state charge for solicitation, so.
or
Awesome.
municipal
Private.
or no, I'm not saying not in general. I'm just saying as an
Oh.
example for another like Fort Collins.
Yeah.
There's no solicitation. There's just the
What I have a problem with-
what was it? Aggressive panhandling if you happen to be harassing.
Right.
No.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so since there's no actual solicitation charge, maybe for other municipalities in general, then a private property owner, when they put no soliciting on, all it is you're just doing some unspecified act that I have the general discretion to ban you on by the mere act of warning.
This
It's
is
just
the way they're
just a warning.
speaking for all.
It doesn't
private
matter if
property
it's
owners.
soliciting,
Come back.
it's not, if you're loitering, hey man, you're banned. If you come back, it's
What happens
trespassing.
if you come back?
Exactly,
Then it's
trespassing.
trespass.
It's all the same.
So there still needs to be a legal authority.
Yeah, exactly. But the whole thing is, you can't get them on trespassing up to the first warning. Meaning someone that comes in public property, public private,
Okay.
and there's
So you,
shopping and stuff.
What I'm understanding is that you're thinking that the solicitation will apply the same way as a trespass as long as you're on private property. Is that what you're trying to ask?
Well, there's it's
I guess
a little
what it
muddy.
is,
It actually isn't really the point. I don't know because the solicitation charge is your municipal code. And that's what you thought you gave me the problem and there you saw and so forth. All we were saying with this other side argument was a solicitation charge isn't anything special under private property. It's just a warning process that requires
Saying it
exclusionary
falls in
property.
line with skateboarding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
purple
exactly.
shirts or
Yeah.
speeding, and then you
Right.
say,
And so-
don't do it again. If
Yeah,
you
so
do
he
it
can be
again,
banned right
then
away.
it's
But
trespassing.
the-
You'll get
but
trespassing.
if
Now,
that's the
speeding, on
case-
the other hand, can be articulated as
Exactly.
careless driving.
And so we'll just use this example.
Okay.
You catch someone skateboarding,
Mhm.
undercovers catch someone skateboarding.
Okay.
There's no solicitation or actual skateboarding charge outside the private property. And so you as an officer, you ask, have you been warned for this skateboarding before? And the guy says, no. And where it would be illegal, I think, is where you said, well, we need to hold you here for the identification purposes of this private property owner
No.
to ban you. You would not be able to hold him there?
I would not hold it.
Exactly. So since you can't hold them there for private property identification of an exclusionary
Okay.
for skateboarding, you wouldn't be able to do the same thing for loitering.
I guess what you're
or
trying to do is a public
soliciting or any
skateboarding
other
ticket that would
thing.
go over.
Unless
public
you're
ordering
doing
that would
something
go over.
Broken municipal code. I mean,
But-
I don't
yeah,
know.
but
If you
municipal
were-
code doesn't give you the
let me just-
justification
I'll go
to
back
still
the-
hold them,
I'll go
though,
back
for
to the
some
most
private
simple
property.
terms. I'll go back to the most simple terms. If you were affecting the flow of traffic through that intersection, I would write you a ticket. Absolutely. If somebody called in and said you were walking into the travel portion of the highway, that is reasonable suspicion
Okay.
contact. And we have people
Okay.
call all the time. I guarantee if you were standing out there, guarantee somebody called.
Yeah,
Guarantee.
but not to be walking out to the public roadway. So they
They usually only
They're
call
just-
if you're walking into the road.
Well, yeah, they don't know what marketplace is. So
Regardless, that's reasonable suspicion of contact.
oh, you're sure to contact you
For the complaint, right?
But
So,
remember. Once you get there and we say if I happen to say beforehand, hey, I'm not on the travel portion of a public roadway, and I'm not on a median,
Okay.
where's your reasonable suspicion left?
But see, that's
I
where
could-
that's where the definition of a median and everything like that, travel roadway, is going to be. It's going to be up to
Do you really think
interpretation.
people, okay,
Because a
up
median,
to interpretation,
median
I talked
separates
to.
the roads. A median separates the roads. Travel
Okay.
roadway is anything the cars go down. So I understand your guys' point about saying it's not a road as recognized by the city, but I mean it's a road. It's a road that cars drive on.
Travel
So it
portion.
depends on your definition
Well,
and what
all I
you see
can-
as a road.
Yeah, all I can do is, the only way I can respond to that would be, I didn't have any different answers when okay, to be honest, this is how I did it, this is how I made it work. I came in here, I talked to the city clerk's office.
Okay.
They talked to the city manager, I talked to Sergeant Gardner,
Okay.
and I talked to another female. I posed as
What are you doing here talking to us? I think we're already talking to our supervisors.
because it never got resolved. And so
Okay.
this is the issue. When I talked to them, how do I put this?
So were you expecting your ticket to be taken away? Is that?
No. This is all. We always know that there's a fight, bureaucratic.
Okay,
What I'm
right,
trying
yeah,
to get at
absolutely.
Okay.
is that I talked to them and I had posed as a anti-abortionist that just had some signs that with private property permission, I asked them if they had any reasonable suspicion
I'm just
ever
getting
to stop
sensitive. I credit
while
you.
on that
They can
meeting.
take care of
They
it
all
when
agreed,
they're-
no.
when
They all
they're
agreed that it wasn't a median,
fine.
that it wasn't public property.
Okay.
And since
Just
they,
I guess what he's saying,
since I got
median
the
is different
Okay.
between a public
permission.
road
You guys have a good day.
median on private property.
Private property.
Yeah.
Okay, a separation of road on
Super
private
having
property.
fun time median
Yeah,
on private
okay.
property.
So they never had any issues identifying that wasn't a median. They never double checked.
Okay.
Every single time they were
So
like,
what's-
"Oh, that's just private
Are you
property."
using the abortion thing as your solicited?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
me. That was me explaining that.
Solicited contributions?
Yep. Which I said 773 is what I was worried about being cited for.
Absolutely.
And they went through one by one with me, and they voluntarily said, no, that's not a median, so you're good there,
Okay.
and you're not traveling with public portion. They even said, if you do, we can get you there only after the fact.
Okay.
And so the point of contention I'm making is, if they can see that for an anti-abortionist straw man or whatever,
What's
without a second guess,
right?
I'm concerned about any officer on the road. Basically, I just wanted your city managers to talk to your cops so that you guys can identify that at the very least, you're not allowed to use medians on private property as a reasonable suspicion.
I guess what you're just
You can use other
proportionally
reasons,
implying is
but that was the reason
abortionists-
why they said was because, and you can read the police report.
Abortionists
That's
are
what they
saying
started off
is
with.
not going to
was-
be committing
That's why they
crimes.
said they stopped him. So I'm just trying to save you guys some trouble of the definition of a median
Okay.
is not private property. And then, like I said, I wish I could quote it, but
But it's,
the very specific issue of can you identify or can you detain somebody for the purposes of that private property owner to identify them for the purposes of an exclusionary order where they haven't been banned before,
Right.
and it's not a offense that has any actual like a skateboard. And if you can't
Yes,
lawfully
It's not a
As if
crime. I
this
mean, you
ticket
guys
is-
obviously know what reasonable suspicion is, and you obviously know what probable cause
Yeah.
is.
So if
So
it's
if you
not
can
a
deduct
crime-
that in your mind, then you got your
Yeah.
answer. I mean, that's honestly
Well,
as simple as it
yeah,
gets.
I think the way I would word it is if it's not a crime, that's what I'm asking you guys, is
Okay.
that soliciting on private property, that's has nothing to do with this statute, it's not an actual crime.
Okay.
Like me being farther on into the median, way farther in, there's still moving traffic.
Right, I
I'm
mean,
still
it
on
spells
the
it out right
median.
here. Exactly.
So
what it
is
is.
there an
So
actual charge?
what's the definition of median then?
It would be anything that separates moving traffic on a public roadway.
Public, where's it?
The
Yeah, the
definition
whole
of
point is
median-
There's a
private
definition of
property
travel
to
portion
be.
right here.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
However,
the
there's
same
no-
terminology of median, but
Basically-
private property cannot have any public definitions attached.
Yeah, so the travel portion of a street or highway.
So
So
what do you
it has to be a
call-
street or highway
What do
first,
you call a
and then
median on
things
private
median.
property?
It's just a median, but for legal terms, it could, it's
Actually,
not fit under
the definition
statute
of that
median
median on private
public
property
road.
is construction material. Some asphalt next to it, maybe some rocks. Bureaucratically, it's private property. There's no
Always
streets,
is private.
there's no medians. In terms of
Right, you're
public
using
median.
private property goggles, and you're saying that this is obviously,
Yeah.
has nothing to do with public property.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing, can't be labeled the same.
Yeah.
I
And
understand what
so
you're saying.
the-
However,
Well, the contention is if the city manager agrees with me, or city attorney.
And you gave him the situation where you got cited for solicitation prohibited.
I did the straw man.
Okay, I like your term there, however.
So, but hold on. If they, all I'm trying to say is, if they agree that that's not a median,
Okay.
they just need to be telling everyone on the ground so that you guys can do better investigations. Because,
And absolutely, and I think
there's
The whole point is the abortionist doesn't get the ticket, but then I do.
yeah.
what would an abortionist
There's
get a ticket for?
Well,
Same
a
thing.
An abortionist
solicitation.
can stand on the side of the road.
Solicitation of
protest.
contributions. That's what I was doing.
What's the contribution they're soliciting?
I was asking for
Information
money for my
about
church.
abortion.
That's not. I mean,
I had
they
a sign.
can stand there with a sign.
Well, that's
all they
what
want.
David was doing.
Soliciting contributions is soliciting something for your gain.
Okay, so now to finish off, soliciting means you're asking, right?
Okay. Well,
If you're just holding a sign that says, "Hey, how's it going?" Am I asking?
It's technically.
no, absolutely, and a lot of people do that to get away from the law.
So that's
a lot
not
of people do
soliciting?
that. Go down to
Freedom of
Denver,
speech.
go to Thornton.
Okay, so that's not
Say, have a
soliciting.
nice day. Don't hold them up.
Yeah, but is that soliciting?
Non-technical term. Not in my mind.
Okay, that's what David was doing. He was
I
never
wasn't
asking,
ever
so he was
aggressive.
never even soliciting.
Did you have a sign?
He just had a sign.
What was the sign say?
Said, "Hey, how's it going?" Just,
I mean, here, right,
well,
we can banter about this all day long.
yeah.
We can
Yeah.
banter about this all day. I get what you're saying, I get what
Yeah.
you're saying, but, I mean, you're not gonna get another ticket from me. I'm not going to court and fighting
Well,
against
yeah,
you.
it's
It's gonna be up to the judge. You're gonna give
Yeah.
your side. Officer Thomas is
You
gonna
guys
give
got
his
good
side.
arguments. I mean,
I guess
I
what we're
think,
trying to
yeah,
say
you
is-
know, in all honesty, I can't say that I would do
I've
the
never
same
talked
thing
about
that you did.
solicitation this long, so this is.
Right,
I
absolutely.
guess, yeah, I think what
Let's
the
just say
whole
there-
takeaway is that if we find out that we get this thrown out, and it's found to be thrown out through
Then I'm sure
no
we're gonna
probable
get
cause.
we're gonna get updated and we're gonna get an email.
Exactly.
I know
We will,
we're
yeah.
gonna-
Yeah, because what we're trying to prove is because his argument, like their argument in court, is that it's me. Their argument in court was that no soliciting signs were clearly posted.
Okay.
That's just private. And so all these arguments are essentially, if we're successful, going to throw the case out. It's not going to be thrown out, it sounds like, through, he had probable cause and he was just simply found not guilty. He really wasn't on the median after our investigation found it. Now this was, we're determining, or we'll let the court determine that there was never any probable cause in the first
Public
place.
meeting and a private meeting and stuff
And,
like that.
yeah, and basically there's, the statement is, while you could be trying hard enough, you know, there's no difference between stupid and illegal. And if somebody doesn't interpret that median statute correctly, they have their own, their own risk that they put on their ticket saying we have
Right.
probable cause.
Right.
And so all I'm trying to do is get the left hand to talk to right hand, because we've
Yeah.
already talked to this hand, they stated there is no probable cause.
You know, I
And the
know
whole
last
reason
time
why
I
the
talked to
ticket
my senator-
was.
Because the whole point is if that ticket is
So,
moot,
I think
then
they-
I was illegally held on private property
Okay.
for many different
Yeah,
reasons.
and so
Absolutely.
we're
Yeah,
actually
it's-
trying to set, the only real big one is,
Okay.
like you said, there's no lawful justification potentially, or most likely, to hold someone for the purposes of identification of some other private property owner for some other non-public
The
offense.
way you
to be,
explained it
which
to
is-
me, the way, this is what I'm saying.
Skateboard.
I'm never gonna say Officer Thomas was wrong because I wasn't there. Okay,
Well, yeah,
I
of
have no
course.
right to judge on what happened.
Yeah.
I had no right to judge on what, unless I actually saw it, and then I could say, oh yeah, he definitely was wrong there. He shouldn't have done that, or you guys are wrong. I have no right to judge it. However, the judge is the one that has the right to judge it. So what I was saying, you use the example of holding a skateboard. If I see somebody skateboarding in the marketplace, no, I'm not gonna stop them. No, I'm not gonna hold
Do
them.
you have the legal justification to hold them?
In my mind, no.
Exactly, that's all. we
It's
need
not
to-
a crime.
Yeah,
You guys know what reasonable suspicion is, right?
Yeah,
You know what probable cause is, right?
yeah,
Okay, those are the two things we work off as police officers, and consensual contacts.
yeah.
Am I
So-
gonna walk up and talk to him? Maybe. If
Yeah,
he
you
lets me
guys
talk to
can.
him, go, absolutely.
And we say we don't ask questions. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
A lot of people have a piece of paper that says,
And you can
Might
you
be
can
in
listen
detail.
to how we talk to you is gonna. I mean, usually we always start off really professional. But if I just come up and say, "Hey, how you doing today? Do you mind if I talk to you?" It's usually like, "Do you mind if I talk to you? You don't have to." If I put the "you don't have to" in there, I'm trying to attempt a consensual contact with you.
Yeah,
That,
exactly.
I mean, there's little things that
Yeah.
we can do that kind of gives you guys clues that you can tell me to go pound sand right now.
and there's actually by
Yeah.
law
But
some
if
things that
I-
they have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
when
people
you
don't.
say, are you detaining us, you have to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but if I
So-
own a come up to you and I say, "Sir, I need to talk to you right now," that's a little bit, that's my little bit more serious type of thing that I've been called here, and I'm going to talk to you, and then you can say, are you detaining me? Yes, right now because I was called here for this reason,
That's-
and I'll explain it to you.
I always
And-
ask, even if I have
Yeah.
probable cause to arrest you,
Yeah.
I'll still ask,
Yeah.
you mind if I talk to you?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
a
exactly.
respectful person, but
Yeah, so here I think maybe the issue is if somebody was farther back, not in front of the roadway, so it doesn't apply to the city's solicitation charge, could you still personally hold them there for a solicitation on private property because it said so in that sign, and we need to get a private property owner over here to ban you, just like if it were skateboarding?
if I don't have reasons, suspicion statement for a crime, then I'm not gonna stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's
Unless it's a
only if I
consensual.
was close enough to the median, and then you would only have lawful justification to hold me there for this ticket, 773.
Whatever is determined to be a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly. And that's where we had the point of contention was, he was done writing the ticket for a very long time, said specifically to him, hey, we need to hold you here to get this guy to identify you, to
He said it
ban
in the
you.
middle, and then afterward, he's.
To actually ban you.
And we later read that the security guard has to be the one speaking.
Well, that's one thing, but the whole
Okay.
holding him there, when he said, we're holding you here for identification purposes, that was already an admission of guilt, that it wasn't for a trespassing writing order, it was, I need to hold you here for it was an undercover cop too, so it's kind of like some private, quasi-private entity is holding someone for a private entity for purely private property reasons of banning, as if it was skateboarding.
You think undercover cops are quasi?
Well, no. But when they are hired by the mall, and they admitted to that was why they were there for extra security. of
I'll
the
tell you
mall.
right now,
Then that was
the
a-
marketplace does not hire us for anything.
Well, wow, oh, wow.
We do.
Ooh, you're security guards, you're a police
Police
officer.
officers.
In the unmarked, Charger vehicle?
We do an initiative. It's
Yeah.
not, we're not hired by.
They claimed that it was for the holiday season that they're
Yep.
doing it.
Yes,
Yep.
it's an extra.
And it is,
That's
that
what
is
we
put
do.
on by the city. We are not
Yeah.
hired or paid extra by the marketplace.
Okay, interesting, okay, well, you never know.
We do that
Yeah.
because we get about 6,000 arrests every winter time over there,
Yeah.
so.
We're just concerned of, if there's no one's on a median,
Mhm.
or that's an actual public median,
Okay.
no one's traveling out in the public portion of the roadway, and no one is located such that it's impossible for even one car to go to the
Mhm.
public park. And times that by me going and posing as a non-homeless person, it's more of a yuppie or whatever we call them. And I'm told that I will not be receiving tickets for standing on that actual median spot that he's standing on.
Okay.
There's no equal application of the law now.
But see, you're changing the situation of what you guys were doing.
Nope, same thing.
By
I was
saying-
holding
It was
signs.
the
By
same.
saying-
I was soliciting contributions. That's why I said when I set up my straw man I was saying the person's him. My motive was different. I was an anti-abortion.
Obviously, an anti-abortionist is for a church with more money.
Well, I made sure I set it up.
So
so
you guys
it's
are
the same
soliciting
way.
for money for the church? Is that what you're trying to
Well,
say?
that was my straw man.
Okay.
Hey, I'm an anti-abortionist. I just need some money for my church. And so I want to hold up a sign on this. It looks like a median.
I guess what he's
Okay.
trying to
And
say
so-
is,
I'll be honest with you guys.
That,
If-
how
if
come
it
these people
doesn't
ticket
match-
him?
If it doesn't match that, that's the answer I'll give you. If
Okay.
it does not match
Yeah.
that, because I can't explain Officer Thompson's actions.
Perfect.
I
Yeah.
cannot explain
Yeah.
to you why he did what he did. I wasn't there for one. I'm not in his mind for two. He has to explain in front of a judge why he did what he did.
Exactly, and that's what we're really curious about.
Yeah.
This was a
Yeah.
half education, half, I'm really curious what more cops have to say because it's getting deeper. And then this was also a
Absolutely.
third
Yeah.
of just kind of like exposing to you guys that, like you said, you thought it was median when
Right.
it wasn't. And, like I said, confirming it as a different type of entity changes the law because of the whole discrimination that we've caught. And so we play the cop bad cop all the time. And so, good investigator, bad investigator, whatever you want to call it. And
Right.
I just said, it's like, obviously we'll do a case law study or not.
Right.
But I think maybe if you guys want to just ask around of just generally speaking.
Yeah, depending on
Can
the outcome
you-
of this, I mean, if
Yeah.
it comes out that we can't, and trust me, dude,
Well, it's just a,
it'll come out to us. If this is an unlawful stop and he had no probable cause to write you a ticket,
No
then
problem.
it'll come out to us.
We're gonna define
Yeah.
about it, yeah.
Yeah, and then to talk about, like we said, if there's no reason to hold someone and say that you're holding them for the purposes of an exclusionary order to get them banned because you're admitting that they need to be identified first
Did you
for
say
the
exclusionary order, or did you say for identification purposes?
Identification for an exclusionary.
for an exclusion to be banned.
And his exact words were exclusionary.
Or not exclusionary. Was it exclusionary?
Yeah, he said exclusionary.
Oh, okay. Well, the whole point is them admitting that it was for the purposes of holding. The only quick question someone would ask is, are you detaining the officer, and what statute am I being detained for now? And it's like, there's no statute. And so that's why we're concerned, because that's why I read online of a false imprisonment charge. And then, you're just holding somebody there.
Right. Right.
So,
No,
I don't want you guys to be committing false imprisonment charges because of your varying
Right.
definitions of
Understand. I
exclusionary
completely
orders and
understand.
stuff.
I understand. And it's a good thing to bring up to the people that you already have.
Yeah.
And I guess
Yeah.
With-
Plus, it's a very interesting whole.
what we're seeing is
Point of location.
basically an unequal application treatment of homeless people.
Okay.
And so we were just concerned that it's happening again in another city of basically being railroaded, profiled, stick with fraudulent tickets as a way to just run us away.
Yeah, or what we've seen in Fort Collins is they will do absolutely anything they can to get to the warrant because they think it's there, or the identity. And so in my experience, I kept telling him, hey man, I'm not going out, it's not causing me to go out on the pub roadway. Hey man, I am not on a median. Hey man, look, the vehicles are not in a place where they cannot move in. They can always turn.
You would be the
And
very
so-
few that are not doing that, especially while holding a sign on the side.
Yeah. And so what really gets me is when I offered that information before I gave my idea, I kept asking him, so where's your reasonable suspicion now? What am I doing now? And the only thing he could come up with left was, he literally said to my face, I can't believe you that you say that you aren't going out there. So your investigation, you're conducting it, and you're defaming me that you can't believe me to my face when you once never saw me, you never got a complaint that anyone saw me, and I just told you that I know better.
100% fact you never got a complaint?
Not on that side, because I just
It'll
got
come
there.
up tomorrow if you did.
Oh, I 100% know. Yeah, I was only there 3 minutes. By the time the cops showed up on the other side,
Okay.
I saw them and I was like, well, I'm not going to leave because I was mistaken as David the whole time. I didn't want to leave the court open. I wanted to close it. And so it was very apparent. And I tried to tell him, like, hey man, I just told you that that it's not causing me to go out there. And so it was a hate crime to me where he didn't believe me to my face and said,
Do you want to make a
there's
formal-
still reasonable suspicion that you're committing some sort of crime.
Do you
and
want to
that
make a
was
formal
like that.
complaint?
Honestly, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
All right, let me get started.
Yeah.
Because I got stuff.
yeah. But
There you go. I'm gonna give you my card.
sweet, thanks.
This has been a very actually interesting conversation, so appreciate you guys stopping by.
Do you guys have any car camping laws?
Car camping lot. Yeah, you
Sleeping in your car?
Yeah, I know there's one in our section somewhere, so I
Okay.
haven't find it specifically, but I know we have.
Because we had the
ordinance about
exact
it.
same issue with other places. Ready? We have a van. It's a cargo van. The back is blacked out.
Okay. Where are you parking?
We're parking legally on private property, just like whenever we can,
Where's the private property?
with permission of owners.
It's in
Which,
Fort Collins.
Fort
sir.
Collins. And
Is
also.
it a store or is it like near a house?
It's his apartment.
It's his
parking
apartment.
lot. Yeah.
Okay.
And they have their own rules up there.
Yeah.
And then there's also like Walmart down here and stuff, the places where they let
Walmart,
you.
yeah, they let you do it all the time, yeah.
And so our concern is, since evidently we're allowed to park legally for 48 hours, at least in Fort Collins, that's the law for every park. If I'm in my vehicle, I'm not allowed to just hang out in my vehicle?
So yeah, that's where if you're if you're contacted up at Fort Collins for their law and all that stuff, I mean, if it looks like you're living in your vehicle and they see a bunch of clothes and a bed and stuff like that, or it looks like you're staying there, and if they contact the property owner and they give your name to the property owner and they say, yeah, these people don't live on this property, they're not in any of our systems, then
But we're on a
they're
public
gonna,
roadway though.
And
on
it's
public roadway or
on
on
public.
Yeah, this is back to,
Okay.
the 2 hour or 2 day parking, you can park anywhere.
on public roadway?
On public road.
And it's
Okay.
completely
Yeah.
blacked out.
And it's completely blacked out, so you couldn't see that there's any sleeping in there. You couldn't even see if people are in there. What we're trying to find out is if this is our final quagmire of where we can go to sleep permanently, where We aren't to require, because we're, heap of lawsuit, paperwork, so we lost our jobs for sickness and that we're trying to get back to the legal. So we don't have any money for rent right now, but we need to stay close enough to the resources of our town to go to court for everything.
Yeah.
And so in the end, we're trying to find a place where, sure, there's a camping lot, but can you get a warrant for a cargo van because you just suspect there might be people camping inside?
So basically, if somebody went to, if one of our animal control or one of us got called to a vehicle that is just suspected to be an abandoned vehicle, because that's probably how they would call it out. They'd probably call it an abandoned vehicle if they never saw you guys getting in and out of it, or they never saw anybody moving around in it. We would go there.
There's 2 days.
But then
We could go there and we could. Well, this is where it goes. Say you're there for a couple days. They call us. We go and take a look at it. We run the plate. It doesn't register to any address in there. Then what normally we do is we mark the tires. Okay.
See if it moves.
See if it moves, and we put a warning on it for 72 hours. If the vehicle doesn't move within 72 hours, then the vehicle will end up being towed. And that's if we don't know if anybody's sleeping in it or camping with it. So that's the section. That's basically how they would handle it if we didn't know somebody was sleeping in it. Okay. If we get reports from neighbors, like say you parked in a neighborhood just on a side street out of the way somewhere, and we get complaints from neighbors saying, I see people going in and out of there, they're living out of the car.
But it hasn't been there 2 days.
Then, well, we have a whole different policy with that. If we contact you guys and you're not related to anybody that you guys are staying in the vehicle around, then it changes our dynamic, because our municipal ordinance is different than Fort Collins.
But we're allowed to park there for 2 days.
I'd have to look at the municipal ordinance. I know that ours is different than Fort Collins. I think ours is a different date, period on the days. And then,
but 24 hours.
If
I'm
you're
just
not,
saying 8 hours.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to park in front of a house, but it's on a public roadway, and for 8 hours, and go in and out of my vehicle, and cook and everything?
Oh man, if you're cooking and everything.
But the thing is that is it actually illegal?
It depends on what kind of. It's illegal to live out of your car.
In this scenario,
now,
there was
sure,
yes,
if it's illegal to live out of your car, when there is a blocked off cargo and you can't see inside of it, then is it still illegal?
If we get reports from neighbors and stuff like that, or people saying that you guys are out cooking and you're
That's
making
the
your
thing.
Well,
food
sure,
and
reports
stuff
would be one
like
thing.
that, yeah.
Once you get there, you see that there's
You
no
guys
way
might
you can get
you
inside.
guys might get your car hooked up and towed with you in it if you're going to hide from us.
Well, keep in mind that there's
That's
can't tow
not
without the
past
2 days.
72 hours, though.
yeah, it's not past 72 hours.
Yeah. So what we're saying is, say someone who sees us getting out of the vehicle numerous times. When we open up the van door, they just happen to see like an air mattress. Call it in. Hey man, I think somebody might be sleeping in the vehicle. You get there, all you see is a closed, locked, blocked off, so you can't see in the back cargo van. You know that there's reports of camping.
Hang on, I'm sorry. Hang on 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to go, guys. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You guys
Sorry, I'm going from the merger. I've enjoyed talking to you guys. I appreciate it.
But that's kind of where we're at next. Was
The cop will legally search our vehicle and try to get us on camping.
yeah, this was in Broomfield. They
Okay.
because there weren't any.
Jimmy.
You guys are good to talk to, just because you bring up so many points, so that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, this is good. This
So-
is a good discussion. So.
Yeah, real quick before we go. Basically, this was in Broomfield. We had the closed off vehicle. Broomfield police kept knocking on it, never identified themselves. We thought it was just some public random
dude.
And before we knew it, they jimmied into our vehicle. And we're like, do you have a warrant? No. Are we parked here illegally? No. Are you detaining us? No. Okay, bye. And we got their business cards and left. And we found out that they lied. All of it, they said that it wasn't locked on the police report.
So there's like a flag.
Wow.
Yeah, you guys.
So we're just trying not to be profile discriminating.
Everything for checks, and it's saying, hey, you can't camp, and that's an illegal search and seizure.
Yeah, right after he opened the vehicle, he's like, "Oh, I know you guys were dead there," and I'm like, "You didn't know if anybody was in here in the first place." That's why we're just trying to
You guys got
hide.
some stuff going
You know.
on, man.
Well, truth be told, to finish, thanks for listening. But we're dealing with a $141,000 municipal code fines that were attached to us earlier last year. We got that dismissed because it was frivolous. And then while we were trying to dismiss it, we're on the streets filling the paperwork. We get absorbed all of the illegal camping bans, and now people are taking it outside of parks. They're taking us in easements, claiming it's parks. So tons of false imprisonment, kidnapping charges. and then to top it all off, there's discrimination left and right, segregation. They're not taking it. He was part of the Occupy Jefferson protest, and
They
they
didn't take my 911 call.
he actually made a 911 call to a business owner about across the street, and the guy said he would look into it.
They're not taking 911 calls to people who file taxes.
Yeah, so there's a ton of discrimination up there, and that's why we end up going down here. And then when we see these things where
And we get the same thing happening.
you're like, you don't believe me that I'm not going on the roadway. That gives me reasonable suspicion that you're now breaking the law. I'm like, wow, you just profiled a person that you can't believe him at face value. And so what really got me about that was I read the statute. He was.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey man, you're telling me that I'm under suspicion of crimes that I'm telling you to your face, I know the statute, and it's not. And so he refused. He said, well, I can go to my vehicle and get that those later. I just need your ID now.
I guess what he's trying to get at is, you do try to find a wiggle room.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm not supposed to have this mystery. Basically.
You guys are gonna make good arguments in court.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well, I guess the real thing that I've noticed is every time I talk to an officer or a sergeant, it's all that same answer. You'll have great arguments for court. These aren't arguments for our court. These are offenses that we're going to be charging in a countersuit of false imprisonment, kidnapping, profiling, things like that. So that's, there's sure if there was probable cause. Dropping in court's normal, absolutely. What we're saying is we're having trouble finding places where there was probable cause. Like we said, we talked to one person, they say it's not immediate. So to me, probable cause, if I remember correctly, it's like where pinwheel theory, and it's like what a reasonable person would do with the same amount of information. And that's why when I was posed as an abortion guy, I never got any second guesses on those answers.
That's interesting.
When I talked to you guys about this, got my second guess answers. So I'm not saying you're profiling or anything, but I'm just saying if I can go there and say that I'm an abortionist, anti-abortionist, and very clearly be told, no, as long as you have private property information, you can be on that exact median where I said he was, and we won't take it, Jeff. And it's like, how come a cop just decided to well, he hadn't had that warning yet. So.
Did you guys want to wait for the story?
No, we can fill out we'll online or something, or honestly, internal.
No, I'll grab my sergeant. Yeah, he's
on a call right
He's
now.
on a call right now.
Is it Sergeant Gardner?
No, it's Sergeant Danielson. Sergeant Gardner works swings. He doesn't come until about.
Okay. Yeah, we can get back. No worries. Okay. We have plenty of juice. Then we got to put it all down on paper and stuff. So, but yeah, we're just above all concerned if there's like a skateboarding charge, if there's no lawful justification to actually physically hold someone there for someone else's identification purposes of a private property exclusionary order. That's a big deal.
For that situation alone, like I said, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened in the situation.
Yeah.
So
We're
I
just
can't tell you the officer did something wrong. So
exactly.
I honestly
We're just
don't know.
wanting to make sure that you guys don't feel like you have to go hold someone for an exclusionary order.
Well, I appreciate that. No, I appreciate it.
We're just watching out because it's when I read everywhere, I just did a very preliminary search of just you guys can start the search off of private property security guards formal notices on trespassing. And right away, the first couple pages, it said some of the big pitfalls you can run into if you're a security guard is if you detain them for holding them, making them go fill out an exclusionary order.
Kids to sit in the office for skateboarding pictures.
Yes, pictures, identity. Basically, the only thing you can do as a private property owner is say, "Hey, you!" As they're running away. I know who you are. If I see you again, you're banned. Or I mean, you're trespassing.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Got it.
So it was just all backwards, and it was one cop holding him
So
there
all this
for him.
is for
So-
litigation, right? On your guys' behalf, towards the department of litigation.
That and just generally speaking, like I don't like litigation. I just want people. I want the one hand to talk to the other hand.
Right.
And if I can go and get that answer from city attorneys, and I can get a difference from you guys, that's where I'm so concerned.
Right, no, absolutely. And you gave me a scenario. I told you what I would do in that scenario. Like I
Yeah.
said, I never told you Officer Thomas did anything wrong.
Yeah, you
told
never know.
I wasn't there in that situation.
But I
Right.
guess
It's not for me to decide,
yeah.
So.
I guess while it's not for you to decide,
Mm.
well, it's not even you don't even have to because of the whole free will and choice argument we see. It just would be
Right.
kind of
No,
neat, and it would be good,
I get it,
and it would
I
be
get it.
advisable if you went and actually read this guy's entire police report of that day, because you'll see a lot of other things where the officer was claiming that he had probable cause, because there's no soliciting sign. That doesn't mean anything special. But yeah, if you guys read the police report, just simply gone over it a second time, or have your sergeant go over it, or have the city attorney read over it
But
one more
technically, it
time.
maybe not even need to go to the judge.
Yeah. You guys might realize that you can drop
You
it.
said your court hearings tomorrow?
Well, no, that's
I'm requesting a jury trial.
just for sure.
Okay.
So it's already set for some future hearing, but it has nothing to do with the hearing. It's just, like I said, there seems to be no consistent views on this, and we're just really concerned.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Maybe there's some days
yeah, we're right in. It says, but
yeah,
sorry for all the trouble. You guys have plenty of
No, you
other
guys
work
are
to
fine.
do.
You guys are
so-
fine. That's
but
fine. You can have a
appreciate it.
conversation with
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
You guys take care, all right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Be safe out there.